All right, we're going to look at finance part 1, and for this, I'm just going to kind of work on 1, 2, 3, and then we'll do 5, 7, and 9 here. Okay, so for the first one, we know that we have $200 for a week, and we're going to repay it with just a 5% one-time fee. So really what's happening with that is we know that we're going to have to pay back the $200, but then plus that 5%. So it's basically like simple interest. So we're going to do 200 times 0.05. And so this will equal $210. So that's how much we're going to have to repay. For number 2, we suppose that we have a $3,000 T-note, which is again a type of savings. 3% annual rate, paid quarterly with maturity in 5 years. So we are earning interest every quarter. That's 4 times a year. So we're going to start and say, okay, well, the amount that we're going to have is equal to our principal times 1 plus our rate over how many times it compounds to the n times t power. And sometimes I use some different variables. It really depends on what textbook, but the point is to know what everything's standing for. And so we know that our principal amount is the $3,000. 1 is really just getting that $3,000 back, but we're also going to earn some interest, and it's 0.03, but broken up by quarter, so divided by 4. And we're going to have a total of, well, how many compounds? If it's 5 years and it's quarterly, we're going to have 4 times 5. Which is really going to be a 20 here. So when we enter that into our calculator, reminder that Decimos will let you enter this whole entire thing in as is. You should be getting $3,483.55. All right, let's look at question number 3. It says we have this T-bill that is a type of bond that is sold at discount over the face value. So for example, you buy a 13-week one at a face value of $10,000, but you buy it for $9,800. So really that's meaning that you're going to earn interest to get back to that $10,000. And so this is a 13-week one, so it's saying that in 13 weeks that you'll get back to that face value, which means you'll earn that $200. And so it doesn't say anything about compounding. It just says that we have this interest rate. And so if we want to find out how much interest we're earning, let's look at the principal times the rate times the time. I'm sorry, not the interest, but the interest rate. So we know that we're earning $200 in interest. We know that the starting amount is that $9,800. And so we want to know the rate. We don't know what it is, but we know we're keeping it there for 13 weeks. So remember that time is always annually, and we only have a chunk of that annual, of that year. So in a year, there are 52 weeks. So the portion of the year that we're talking about is going to be 13 out of 52. So when we enter that into a calculator, I would enter in first the 9,800 times 13 over 52, just to kind of have that nice and neat, and that equals 2,450. And we still have the R. So to solve that, we'll divide both sides by that 2,450. And it ends up that our R will be equal to 0.08163, which is our rate written as a decimal. So as a percent, we'll just move that decimal place over 2, and we'll be at 8.16. We'll keep that rounded to just 6%. That's our rate. Okay, for question number 5, now this one does say that we are compounding annually, and it says we're going to deposit $300. We got our interest rate, and we know that we're going to do that for 10 years. So we're going to use the formula to find the amount. We'll take our principal, which is 300 times 1 plus our interest rate is 0.05, again 5% as a decimal, over, we're compounding annually, that's just once a year. I'll write a 1 here, but you really don't have to. And we're doing this for 10 years, and again, it's compounding annually, so we could write 10 times 1, but again, it's only going to compound 10 times, so you could just leave it as 10. So when you enter that into your calculator, you can simplify a little bit if you want to. This is 1.05 to the 10, and that ends up that we're going to be at $488.67, rounding to the nearest penny there. All right, for question number 7, we are again going to be compounding, but this time monthly, so that is 12 times a year. We know our beginning amount, we know our interest rate, and we know we're going to do it for 20 years. Our job is to find out how much money we're going to have, and then we'll figure out how much interest. So again, our amount is equal to, we'll write 2,000 times 1 plus, it'll be 0.03 over 12, and we're doing it 12 times for 20 years, so let's say 12 times that 20. So just simplifying just a tiny bit, that's 2,000, we'll have 1 plus 0.03 over 12 to the 240th power. Again, entering that straight in, rounding to the nearest penny, we're going to get 3,641 and 51 cents. And so if this is the amount of money that we have after those 20 years, and we know we started with 2,000, all we have to do is subtract the amount we have earned total minus our initial investment, and it ends up that we will have $1,641.51 in interest. All right, our last one here, number 9, it says, how much do we need to deposit? So this is saying we don't know that principal starting amount, but we know that we want to have $6,000 after 8 years. We are compounding again at 6%. So I'm going to have the amount that, just like previously, I was trying to find, instead I actually know it. So I'm going to write 6,000 is equal to, we don't know the amount we need to deposit, so I'm just going to write that as our principal P. And we're going to have 1 plus 0.06 over 12 since we were compounding monthly. And it's going to compound over the course of 8 years, 12 times 8 times. Or we could rewrite that as 96. And so the easiest way for me to kind of think about this is this whole entire thing is a number, and you could enter onto a calculator and use that. But you can also just divide by that whole number there on both sides. And if you're using that Desmos calculator, you can enter this as is here. That will cancel out, getting us P alone. And when you enter this into your calculator, again, you write 6,000 divided by, and make sure you put those parentheses on there. It ends up that our P is going to be equal to $3,717.14. So that would have to be our starting amount in order to have $6,000 by the end of 8 years.